Yeah. Bill, if we're talking about Mike, we all have questions.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, welcome, fans and friends. We are up to episode 4 of season 16 of Mention and Dispatches. We've got another special guest this week. We did bring designer Mark Miklos to the table, and we're going to talk to him about some designs, but not just designs. We are also going to be talking about special events coming up that are going to be relevant to folks that will be listening to this about the time they'll be listening to it all. To do that, we had to bring folks smarter than me to the table, but unfortunately they weren't available. So you're stuck with Mike. Mike, welcome back. Glad to have you again.
Glad to be back, as always.
Hey, I gave you a week off, because we were talking connection stuff last week. So you got the week off, and now we'll drag you back in here. And then Bill is finally done working on his tan lines, and so Bill is back off his cruise and able to join us again. Bill, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. I had a whole season off, so I'm raring to go.
Wait, we didn't. Oh, you weren't able to make the fall assembly conversation last fall.
That is correct.
So yeah, you did. You should be well charged at this point. But the man of the hour, the main event and the main attraction, and the reason probably 2/3 of you listening to us bothered to tune in, Mr. Mark Miklos, designer extraordinaire and now event organizer extraordinaire as well, is here with us. Mr. Mark, sir, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Brant, and Bill and Mike. It's a pleasure. I had the opportunity to play a game on Vassal with Bill. That was a lot of fun. Bill's a great player. And Mike, though we have not played yet against each other, I've watched you play on your channel, and you're no slouch either. So I'm expecting some good questions this evening.
Guys, that sounds like a gauntlet being thrown down at y'all.
Mostly a Bill. I'm just going to listen.
So Mark is known as the American Revolution guy. Look, there's pictures floating around of him in a Revolutionary uniform. So a Revolutionary War uniform. So this is definitely his thing. And so it's the Battles of the American Revolution series, or if you're going to look on GMT, it's just the American Revolutionary War series, not on Consim World. That's where you'll find it. The series, I think we're up to 14 games now in the series that are actually published, right?
There's 10 published titles, but within those 10, there are actually 12 different battles because two of them are dual packs.
Yeah, I think I was counting like the tri-pack reprints, that there's like 14 products, I think is probably where it is. And so this covers the full gamut of the American War for Independence. I mean, there's up and down the coast, early war, late war, we're all over the place. We're covering as much of it as possible. Bill has been writing a series for us, sort of working his way through. We're up to 5 or 6 at this point.
We've finished the first 4 games in the series.
Yep.
Plus, we've gone back and done the Steam implementation of Saratoga, which is about 2 months old now. A great adjunct product to the series. And next up is Monmouth.
Okay, so yeah, I think I was counting Saratoga as the 5th thing that you had covered in the series of articles there. And we did do a podcast on this a year-ish ago where we talked about the series, had Bill on to talk about the series as a part of that. And so we've covered this a bit. Mark, quickly, so that we've got plenty of time because I know you could go for a while on this one. We want to leave time to talk about the special events coming up. The love of this period for you and why it is that this is sort of your shtick and the thing that you are most enthused about. Where did that come from?
Boy, that's a great question. And, every time I answer it, I think I answer it a little bit differently. But basically, like all of us, like many of us anyway, I was in the hobby for well over 20 years and had picked it up as a freshman in college. And whenever you do anything for that length of time, you start tinkering around the edges. Hey, how about this house rule? Wouldn't that make this game a little bit better? Oh, if I had designed this game, I would have allowed for horse artillery, not just regular, whatever. And I found myself with time on my hands in the mid-1990s. I was sort of between careers, and I had some time. And I had just come back from a tour of New England with my wife. She's from Tennessee and grew up in South Carolina. I was born in Connecticut, so she had never been to New England. I took her up there in the fall to see all the colors, and we did a nice circuit around New England, and On the way south, we were on the west side of Lake Champlain and the Hudson River, and that brought us to the battlefield at Saratoga. You know, she's a good sport and has really supported me in my hobby, and so she was all up for it, and we went to the battlefield, and I found myself standing at the Boot Monument. For those who don't know, the Boot Monument is it's a granite, like a headstone almost, a granite marker with a bas-relief of a boot, and there's a bullet hole through the instep. There's no name on it, but it's engraved to the most gallant soldier of the Revolution, and that was in honor of Benedict Arnold. They didn't name him because of his subsequent treason, but he was instrumental, as all of you on this call know, for winning the Battle of Saratoga and thus bringing the French into the war and winning independence. In fact, he was a human dynamo from 1775 right through 1777. I had an epiphany while I was standing there. Okay, I'm in the hobby over 20 years, well over 20 years. I think I can do something with the design. Does the world really need another Gettysburg, Waterloo, Battle of the Bulge game? Who would give a second glance to somebody with no previous experience doing something like that when there are so many great options already available? And fellas, between then and now, in the 30 years since, there have been even more Waterloo, Gettysburg, and Battle of the Bulge games. And so I said, no, I can't, if I want to try something, it has to be in a niche that's maybe underrepresented and where I can get maybe noticed. And what better battle to try than Saratoga, given that almost any historian worth his salt will tell you it's one of the 10 or 12 most significant battles in Western history, perhaps in world history. And so that sort of launched it. Now, I have 2 degrees in history, and if you love history, you love history almost regardless of the subject matter. And I started out as a World War II enthusiast, and then I became a Civil War enthusiast. And it's not that I don't enjoy those periods even today, but once I decided to try to design a game around Saratoga that might feature the role that Arnold actually played there and educate the gaming public who might not be aware of Arnold's true value and importance, then I just started immersing myself, obviously, in the Revolution. And it's been a study of love for the last 30 plus years. And now it's exclusively what I'm into. I mean, there's so much to uncover every single day. I never stop learning. And that's the short story of how I got to A, game design in the first place, and B, Revolutionary War as a subject matter.
So, Mark, the reason we all gathered today is we're talking about some of the special events that you're going to be participating in to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the country. So can you give us an overview of what those plans are for this year?
Sure, and I'll take it chronologically because that saves the best for last. In just another less than 2 weeks from now, we'll be up in Charlottesville, Virginia for the annual PresCon convention. It's billed as the Winter Nationals. And for 20 years now, I've been hosting what's called RevCon. It's a con within a con. It's a dedicated all-Revolutionary War mini tournament that takes place under the auspices of the larger PresCon. And they give us our own dedicated room. We're not out in a ballroom with, hundreds or thousands of other players. We're in a dedicated space that we're allowed to decorate. I think I have like 36 Revolutionary War flags, most of which get up on the walls. We play fife and drum music back there. We play any and all Revolutionary War games by any and all publishers and any and all designers and any and all motifs. Hex and counter, point to point, card driven, area movement, blocks, you name it. We've tried it, and we rotate the lineup to keep it fresh. The only staple in the lineup is my own Battles of the American Revolution series. That's kind of the flagship. But then I bring in and take out games by other publishers and designers. So that's what we do every year. And you play all week. You play through the different games. You earn points. And the winner at the end of the week, besides the individual trophies that they'll get the George Washington Award, as we call it, for being the overall champion of Revolutionary War gaming. This year, though, because of the 250th anniversary, we've got some special events plugged in. We're going to have a I won't call it a lecture, I'll call it a briefing by Professor Don Hanley. He's the professor emeritus from the National Intelligence University. He was, before he retired, he was dean of the College of Strategic Intelligence at the university. He's going to be giving us a briefing on the Battle of Oriskany, which is his design in my series. And that was the companion game to Newtown. And that came out as a second edition in the second tri-pack not too long ago. So Don's going to tell us about the battle, and in particular, the challenge that the British faced in keeping their Native American allies engaged and on the field of battle. It was not you play a war game, you move a counter, you assume that everything's normal and everybody wants to, all the units want to be there, but no, the Native Americans were they were anxious to go home. And it took everything the British knew how to do, cajoling, bribing, strong arming, anything they could think of to keep them in the field. And that's now, those efforts are now reflected in a really elegant design innovation called Indian Will that is part of the second edition. So anyway, he's going to talk to us about that. We're also going to, just for fun, not for competition, we're going to have a team game of Worthington's Hold the Line. And we're going to use the version that uses miniatures. And I've got 5 game boards that are going to be lined up end to end. If any of you have ever seen the big Memoir 44 games that they play at some of the conventions where they line boards up and you've got, 20 guys on a side. I don't know that we'll have 20 guys on a side, but I've set it up to have 10 on a side anyway. That would be 20 players plus 2 commanders-in-chief. And we're going to play a massive team game of Hold the Line with miniatures, just for hoots and bragging rights. Then we're going to have a celebration with cake and champagne and a couple of appropriate remarks. There's going to be a poetic recitation, and then 3 cheers for General Washington. So we're going to be doing that, I believe, on Friday afternoon there at PresCon. So those are some of the new and different things we're blending into the normal RevCon activity. Then in the summer, of course, we'll be at WBC. Again, we normally are in a large space with other gamers playing other games, but this year, in honor of the 250th, they're giving us our own dedicated space that we can once again sort of park ourselves like an island in the storm and dedicate ourselves to immersion in the 18th century. Some of the special events that'll go on there, designer Bruno Sinigaglio is designing cow pens, which I'll talk about shortly. That's the first volume in what we're calling small BoAR, small battles of the American Revolution. And I want to give you guys an update on where we are with that because it's been on P500 for a while. So we'll talk about that in a second. But he's going to talk to us about the Battle of Cowpens and his design efforts there. And then we're going to play Revolutionary War trivia. We're going to have the Bloody Backs against the Yankee Doodles. And we'll have 6 rounds with an intermission, and there'll be some fun prizes to give out for the winning team. And then we'll also have our celebration there at WBC again with cake and bubbly and some cheering and that sort of thing. So that's RevCon, PresCon, if you will, and WBC. But the big event, the special event, the thing I am most excited about is what's coming up in September in Camden, South Carolina. And this is an all GMT, all American Revolutionary War event to honor the 250th anniversary, but also it's GMT's way of recognizing those of us in the hobby who have a special place in our heart for gaming the American Revolution. And we intend this to be really unlike any con that I'd venture to say most of us have ever been to before.
So, Mark, how did Camden get selected to be the location for this?
Well, we had six possibilities to start with, and some were just too expensive to even be considered. Some were too off the beaten path to be practical to get to. We actually had narrowed it down to 2 before making the final decision. The other front runner was Utica, New York, which is in the Mohawk Valley. And speaking of Oriskany, it's like 5 miles one way to Fort Stanwix and 3 or 4 miles in the other direction to the battlefield at Oriskany. So that was the other front runner. But in the end, we chose Camden because Camden is a pivotal location in the story of the Southern Campaign. There were 2 battles fought in Camden, 1 year apart, essentially. The British in 1780, after they captured the American army in Charleston, they began to overspread South Carolina. In the process of doing that, they had an engagement at Camden with Horatio Gates and the Southern Army. And it was an utter disaster for the Americans. It was one of the worst field defeats we suffered. The army was destroyed. Gates was, well, put it this way, he got on a horse and
he retreated with his tail between his legs
and didn't stop riding till he got to Hillsborough, North Carolina, over 100 miles away. Left his men on the battlefield, and his reputation was ruined forever. There again, the so-called hero of Saratoga was humiliated in Camden. The real hero of Saratoga was Benedict Arnold. But that's a story for another day. That's 1780, right? The British are in ascendance, and they destroy the American army at Camden. Fast forward 1 year later, 1781, the Battle of Guilford Courthouse has happened. Cornwallis has turned north, leading eventually to his fate in Yorktown. Nathaniel Greene let him go and returned south into South Carolina to begin the reconquest of South Carolina. And once again at Camden, we have the Battle of Hobkirk's Hill. The battlefield of Hobkirk's Hill is now basically residential Camden. You can still find some sites. There's some markers. It makes a nice little walk. Some quiet neighborhoods, you know. The battlefield at Camden is still, pristine pine forest. It's now very nicely interpreted thanks to the Liberty Trail efforts. But these 2 battlefields are 6 miles from each other, and Camden battlefield is 8 miles from Camden proper. So you have the British in decline in 1781, the British ascending in 1780. So we're going to be able to go to the battlefield at Camden as part of this weekend event, and we're going to be given a private tour there by Rick Wise, who is the executive director of the South Carolina Battleground Preservation Trust. There's nobody better. He's also the editor-in-chief of the Francis Marion Papers. He's also on the board of SC 250, and he was one of the prime movers behind the Camden burials back in 2023, where they had exhumed 14 bodies from the battlefield, did forensic analysis on them that took months and months, and then with full military honors, they were reinterred. That was quite something to behold. I was there for the whole event. It was fantastic. So Rick Wise is going to give our group a private tour of the battlefield. That's just one of the many special things we're going to do besides 3 days of gaming, because we want this, GMT, Mike, Gene Billingsley, and I, we want this to be as immersive an experience as possible. So what does that mean? Well, on arrival day, which is the 24th of September, it's a Thursday, at approximately 6 p.m., we're going to have a meet and greet. That's going to take place on the grounds of historic Camden, which is a little community of about seven or eight period buildings, including a tavern. And we're going to have our meet and greet in this authentic restored tavern. We will have, and I won't spill the beans, I'll just kind of leave it as a teaser. We're going to have period entertainment during the meet and greet. And then with the coming of darkness, we'll light some cressets out on the back lawn. Everyone will move outside, and there'll be a few welcoming remarks made. And then in full darkness, we're going to have 2 rounds of artillery fire with a reenactment artillery battery there that's going to do that for us, which should be a spectacular way to kick off the weekend. Friday morning, then commences the gaming. But before we start gaming, again, we're going to gather in the lawn out in front of our gaming venue, which is Liberty Hall, which is part of the Camden Revolutionary War Visitor Center. We're going to gather on the lawn about 8:30 for some announcements, and again 15 to 20 minutes of period entertainment, after which we'll go inside and commence gaming. Throughout the course of the day, anybody who has registered to attend, if they want to get up from the game table, stretch their legs, they will have complete access to historic Camden, which is right there next door. They can visit those restored buildings, and the two crown jewels of their campus are the Kershaw Cornwallis House, which was the most stately home in Camden at the time, and it was used by both Cornwallis and Lord Rawdon as their headquarters during the British occupation. And there's also a really well-restored, restored British redoubt. The British had built 7, I believe it was, redoubts encircling Camden to defend the town once they were in occupation there. And one of them has been, as I say, reconstructed. And it's a spectacular fort that any of us would enjoy spending a few minutes on.
Mark, can I interrupt you just
please,
for one?
Please do, because I'll just ramble.
No, just for 1 second. Could you go ahead and set 2 attendance positions for Bill and I, so that you make sure that we have room and tickets to attend all these events?
Oh, wild horses couldn't keep me away. So, we can reenact the moving Wedding Crashers if we can't get tickets.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get in somehow, Bill.
So Mike, are you serious? You want to come? I'd love to have you there.
I just pulled up my calendar, and it turns out that I don't have. Is Brant still on? Hopefully he's not listening. I don't really have anything scheduled for September right now, so it's kind of open.
Well, 24,
so I'm drooling on the keyboard.
24, 25, 26, and 27. Tickets will go on sale, I think, contemporaneously with maybe this broadcast, Brent. I'm not sure. But GMT is going to launch a website for ticket sales on February the 19th.
I think as people are hearing this, that was yesterday.
Okay.
So they shouldn't be sold out yet.
Well, how many tickets are there going to be, Mark? Do you know?
I do. Would you like to?
Are you allowed to share that?
125.
Okay.
Yikes.
And that's because of the fire marshal and the restrictions on the gaming venue itself. Liberty Hall can seat more than that if it was auditorium seating for like a lecture or something, but with tables and chairs in there for gaming and not to be in each other's laps, we're gonna limit it to 125, and it's a not to be missed event. So, when tickets are limited, that kind of puts a premium on getting to the front of the line if you can.
You've talked about some of the early on special events going on, which just sound awesome.
And if I can add, Bill, excuse me, we talked about the meet and greet. We talked about gathering Friday morning for some entertainment and gaming. We talked about attendees being able to just get up, stretch their legs, and meander through historic Camden, get a look at the headquarters, get a look at the redoubt, or go into the museum there at the visitor center. It's not big, it's not ostentatious, but it's a nice little period museum and gift shop. But one of our guys is himself a reenactor. He's the president of the 1st Delaware Regiment. He's one of our BoAR cadre players, you might say, and he's going to be down there for this event, and he's bringing with him 5 or 6 uniforms, and he's a professional photographer. So anybody who wants to will be able to slip on a uniform of your choice and have a keepsake photograph made. And that's all of these things I'm talking about so far. The tour, the access to historic Camden, the meet and greet, the refreshments, the artillery, the photographs, everything's part of your registration fee, which is a mere $76. Get that number, fellas, 76. It's not a coincidence. Okay, 76. I'll let that sink in. But
the battle was in 1780, Mark.
Well, the Battle of Camden was in 1780, and Hawkesbury Hill was 1781. But we're celebrating the 250th, right? Then on Saturday night, let's move to Saturday. The tours of the battlefield will be on Saturday. We're going to do it in 2 relays, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. We have chartered some buses to carry everybody out to the battlefield. And again, Rick Wise will conduct those tours for us. This next thing has not yet been confirmed, but we're trying very hard to make this happen. And that is GMT would like to have a dinner Saturday night. There would be an upcharge for that, and reservations would be required. And if we don't already have that information in the ticket website that Brant just said would be live yesterday, if you're hearing this, it would have been yesterday. If that's not on there yet, then what we will do when we finalize those arrangements is we'll reach out to every registered player with the information about the dinner, menu, venue, cost, and so forth. And folks, registered attendees would have the opportunity to pay the upcharge and join us for a dinner. It will be regional cuisine. Gene Billingsley himself said, hey, I want to have some shrimp and grits. So maybe that'll be on the menu, but we'll see. It'll be something Carolina appropriate. Then on Sunday, we play until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it's on to homeward travel. So it's 3 days of GMT Rev War games. What does that mean? That means Battles of the American Revolution series. That means Liberty or Death. That means Washington's War. And I have it on good authority that Mark Herman will be there. We're also going to have some prototypes there. We think Sam London is coming. His new game, Strategic Treatment of the Revolution, is called Common Sense. And I believe if he comes, and I have it on good authority that he will, he'll bring his prototype to show and tell. Bruno will be bringing cow pens with him. I'll have Green Spring, which is volume 11 in my series there, prototypes. So there'll be, a lot of counters to push around, but we do respectfully ask everyone who's coming, leave games by other publishers at home. This is intended to be an all GMT, all American Revolution event.
Well, that's not going to keep me from coming.
So with an all GMT, all American Revolution event, we're probably still going to get a stray game of Liberty or Death breakout somewhere then.
Well, sure. That is a GMT game. And Harold can't make it because he's going to be on safari in Kenya. So we won't fault him for that, I guess. But he certainly sends his best wishes and best regards for a successful event, and his game will be there. Mark Herman, of course, with Washington's War, and then Battles of the American Revolution. And this is meant to be open gaming, so it's gaming for fun. You play with a friend, make a new friend. But for those BoAR players like Mike who are fond of Utah Springs, I am embedding a single elimination Utah Springs tournament. So if you're not interested in competitive play, that's perfectly fine, but there are people who are, and I want to be aware of giving them what they would like as well. So we're going to have one itty-bitty, off-to-the-side single elimination event going on with Utah Springs, which seems like the most appropriate title to pick out of my published games so far for this event in Camden. And we'll have a nice theme-appropriate prize for the winner.
That's awesome. So on February 19th, we expect to see all the information coming out from GMT, which, like we said, is yesterday. And then people can put their John Hancocks down, huh?
That's right. I should say there is no convention hotel. We didn't want to get in the business of guaranteeing rooms and all of that stuff. So we're leaving it up to each attendee to take care of their own accommodation. Now, we are going to provide, my understanding is that on that website, there will be a list of hotels. There are actually 4 of them right at the intersection of Interstate 20 and US 521, which is the road into Camden. And from that intersection, it is literally exactly 1 mile to the Rev War Visitor Center where we're playing. And there are 4 hotels at that interstate intersection. So one is a Marriott property, one's a Hilton property, one's a Holiday Inn property, one's a Comfort Inn property. So, folks can use their own loyalty points or go where their own preferences take them. But bottom line is they're all like right there, a spit and a holler away. Same thing for meals. Other than that dinner, meals are pretty much on your own, but I've provided a list of like 3 dozen, restaurants of every imaginable kind, from white tablecloth linen and fine china down to pizzerias and taco stands. And Camden, the village, is 1 mile up the road. So you get off the interstate, your hotel is right there. 1 mile away is our venue. 1 mile further on is the village of Camden.
Yeah, and downtown Camden is very walkable. I actually just drove through there back in December, going to and from Columbia on a day trip. And I used to live in Columbia, so I've been through Camden any number of times. It's an easy walk back and forth. And for folks that might have to get on a plane and fly in, you can fly into Columbia or Charlotte. Either one is just as easy as the other. Charlotte's the bigger airport, probably going to have some cheaper flights, and it's just over an hour from Charlotte down to Columbia, and then Camden's another 20 minutes or so down the road, down I-20 outside of Columbia going east. It's pretty easy to get to.
I did that for the information I sent GMT to put on their website. Columbia from the airport is 35 miles, and Charlotte from the airport is 88 miles.
Yeah, the Columbia Airport's on the other side of Columbia from where Camden is, but again, it's not like we're talking some large metropolis you got to get across.
No,
Columbia's not that big.
No.
It has gotten appreciably bigger since I left.
No. And so it's pretty convenient to fly. For those who are driving, again, get yourself to Interstate 20 and look for exit 98, and you're there basically. So that's how we ended up in Camden, fellas. It's a charming town with a lot going on. There are 2 cemeteries with Rev War graves. There are, the people in Camden that I've been working with about this can't wait to have us there. They've been gracious. They've been accommodating. They are all about their Revolutionary War history, and they are so thankful that over 100 folks are going to descend on them with the same kind of passionate interest.
Season 16 of Mentioned in Dispatches is underway, and we couldn't do it without our Patreon supporters, and especially the regimental captains at the top level. The Armchair Dragoons would like to thank Chris Anthony, James M., Brian Silcott, Chet Bell, Joseph Knoll, Paul LaFontaine, Miles R., Staggerwing, Fred Stogg, and Fred 2, Kevin Bertram, Michael Sunborg, Patrick Garrity, Catastrophe Games, Hethwell War Games, and Greg from Pico Armor. They help us to keep our objectives in our line of sight. You too can support the Regiment of Strategy Gaming as a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/armchairdragoons.
One other point for those who may be bringing family members in tow who aren't perhaps gamers and aren't going to register. We're going to put together a list of things going on around town during that weekend. It's the Camden Horse and Hound Weekend. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but Camden is a big steeplechase and horse area. They have 2 steeplechase races there every year, Carolina Cup and Camden Cup. We'll be missing those, but this Horse and Hound Weekend is going to be going on out at the racetrack. It's also the location of the National Steeplechase Museum. There's antebellum homes open to the public, lots of antique stores and boutiques for shopping and so forth. So it's there'll be stuff for those who come along and aren't gaming. They don't have to sit in a hotel room.
It sounds like what it is competition for hotel rooms for people coming to Camden. That's what that might turn into. I will also add, for folks that may be having some family in tow coming in from out of town, there are a couple of nice things to do in Columbia. And again, it's a 20-minute drive down the interstate. Surprisingly, for how relatively small the city is, Columbia has a very nice zoo right up against the river. It's called Riverbank Zoo and Gardens, because there's a botanical gardens across the river, and there's a little tram that gets you back and forth. When we lived in Columbia, we were members of the zoo. We had annual pass to the place, and it's not that big. You wouldn't think of Columbia as a particularly snazzy destination, but it's got a really nice zoo. So if you end up with family in tow that doesn't want to sit around and watch you push counters around for 12 hours, send them into town. you could spend the whole day there. There's a couple of decent little restaurants in the zoo, and they can have a nice time at a surprisingly cool little place to kill a day that you likely weren't expecting when you were first looking at, hey, what do we go do in Columbia? There's also right near downtown the official State History Museum, and it shares a parking lot with the kids' sort of exploratorium science museum kind of place. So there's a handful of decent things to do there in town for folks that, again, don't want to sit there and watch you push counters around. Mark, I do have a question for you about the potential attendee pool. Obviously, you're going to be you would probably be able to fill up 120, 130, probably 200 if the fire marshal would let you, slots full of war gamers coming to town wanting to do a bunch of really cool American Revolutionary War stuff. But I'm curious, with your partnerships with the locals, do you know or are there plans for how much is intended? Is there intended to be some outreach to the local community, to the local population for, hey, if you're interested in American Revolutionary War history, we got all these really cool games that we can show you that allow you to sort of recreate it. And could you do better than General Greene, at this battle? Could you, as Cornwallis, not lose at Yorktown? Like, whatever. Have you guys shopped this around to the locals, whether through the SC250 or the historical trusts that are there, or the different battlefields and tours that you can do, the university history departments, any of those other venues to bring historically minded non-gamers to a gaming event?
The answer is yes. The folks at the Camden Rev War Visitor Center have a first-rate, and I mean first-rate, educational programming calendar, which is chock full every month after month. They do lunch and learns. They do evening presentations. I've been there several times to hear talks on different subjects. And I've been speaking with the director of educational programming, and she's aware of what we're bringing. And we're talking now, she and I, about how we might be able to either have me come early, a day or two early, and get slotted on their education calendar to maybe do a show and tell conversation. Because you guys may know, you may not know, but every one of my games are available, or I have them in 4-foot by 6-foot versions. You can't buy those obviously stock that way, but I've had them made. There was a fellow who's now passed away, Bill Alderman. He called himself Big Board Games, and he would take the art files and enlarge games to those sizes with the enlarged counters corresponding. So I've been fortunate to have him make one large game for me of everything I have. So I took those down there. I took an example of that down there with me back in August and showed it to her, the director of educational programming there, Brittany. And I said, look, here's what I'm talking about. And I could set this up and folks could view it. I mean, it's not like looking at a 22 by 34 inch map board, or on a tabletop. It's 4 feet by 6 feet, and we can actually gather around and I can walk folks through, be it the Battle of Guilford Courthouse or the Battle of Eutaw Springs or whatever. And then use that as an entree to say, and 2 days from now, this coming weekend, we're going to be having this extraordinary event where you're going to see, well over 100 people gathered to play these games right here on this campus. And so we're in discussion, Brant, about that.
Awesome. Love it. I lived in Columbia. I was in the South Carolina National Guard when I lived in Columbia. Again, we're going back over 20 years ago at this point. And I know that there's a deep well of historical pride amongst many folks in South Carolina for their role in the American Revolution. And that has always been a point of pride for many of those historically minded folks. There are a lot of great battlefields. The Camden battlefield is reasonably well preserved. For my money, Cowpens is probably the best of the South Carolina battlefields, in that it's the one that I think still looks closest to what the actual battlefield looked like then, and has a great visitor center there also. There are National Guard units in South Carolina that trace their lineage all the way back to the Revolution and a little before. And that's always, again, been a big point of pride for those guys. So I think there's definitely the ability to capture the attention of some of those folks with a suitably early enough launched plan to get them engaged. And of course, travel is going to be less of an issue for those folks. They're not having to get on planes. Some of them may be able to commute in for some of the things that you guys are doing. So well, I was curious about it. Mike is not going to be able to commute. He's going to have to actually like drive and stay. But I think
that's a very short, like 6-hour drive for me. I'm not that far away, so that is not an issue.
Well, listen, Mike. How come you're not coming to RevCon in like less than 2 weeks from now in Charlottesville?
It's a very good question. I think it's because it's the first time I've heard about it, even though there's probably it's probably in Brant's calendar on the Armchair Dragoons website. But that's a very good question.
You said it, not me.
So Mike, your homework after today is to go to presscon.com and navigate around their wonderful website. You can click on the RevCon button, and you'll see more details about what I shared earlier about what we're doing at RevCon. Of course, it's a con, so they play all kinds of games. Whatever your interests may be. But listen, dude, I would love to meet you face to face and get you into our community of RevWar gamers and maybe push some counters across the table from you.
That'd be cool. I mean, it may not be this time since it's such short notice, but definitely sounds like something I'd want to do. But what I will do is I'm going to call up the GMT website and I'm just going to keep hitting refresh until February the 19th.
You're going to have to get your own tricorn though, Mike.
Not a problem. I'll find one of those too.
So, hey, real quick, if I may,
Absolutely.
Kind of cognizant of the time, but I did want to mention what's on the horizon product-wise for our RevWar enthusiasts.
Mark, real quick before you start doing that, Mike, Bill, go hide your wallets. Mark, carry on, please.
They're already pre-ordered, so
yeah. So I had already mentioned Cow Pens. That's Bruno Singaglio. He designed a Time for Trumpets. He's a big Battle of the Bulge expert, but he's been a player of my games almost from the inception, and we've become fast friends. And he's done a great job with Cow Pens. We're taking the scale down from 200 yards to 25 yards per hex, from 100 men per strength point down to between 8 and 10 or 12 men per strength point. You're going to be able to have ranged musket fire, which you don't have currently at my scale. Artillery, the British had 2 grasshoppers with them at Cow Pens. The artillery is going to be able to basically fire, as long as it has a line of sight, basically fire across the map board. We did extensive research on the battlefield at Cow Pens. We had a surveyor's wheel with us. We walked it lengthwise, crosswise. We went into the swamps. We went through the canebrake, or tried to. We were there an entire day, 3 of us, Bruno, myself, and Dave Stifler, who was developing the game. And we were there on not the exact anniversary, but within the week, and the weather was comparable. There were patches of snow. There was a hoarfrost. It was cold. There were no leaves on the trees except for the pines. It was quite an undertaking. Anyway, that's been on P500 for a while. It made the cut, and just this very evening, before I got on this call with you, I received from Bruno what we believe is the final back and forth of the exclusive rule book. All the other components for the game have long been finished. So as soon as I unfortunately have to dash off to a funeral, but as soon as I get back this weekend, I will give that exclusive rule book one last sanity check, and we should be good to go to send everything to the printer. So that's where we are with Cow Pens, for those of you that have it on P500. And if you haven't yet, take advantage of the price break and get your order in before it is published. Then as soon as Cow Pens comes off the art, comes out of the art department, then they will take on Green Spring, which is my 11th volume in the BoAR series proper. Battle of Green Spring, the prelude to Yorktown, was July the 6th, 1781. It was fought on the banks of the James River, just outside of Williamsburg, 6 miles or so from Williamsburg, Virginia. Cornwallis lays a nifty trap and a nifty ambush for Lafayette and Anthony Wayne. The battle is the largest field battle fought in Virginia during the entire Revolution, and yet it, in most histories, it receives little more than a footnote. So that's what I do with my series. You're going to see games that battles everybody's heard of: Monmouth, Germantown, Saratoga, and then you're gonna see some things that are a little bit off the main radar, like Pensacola. Who knew there was a Revolutionary War battle in Florida? And there weren't even many Americans there. They were two battalions of Loyalist infantry fighting for the British.
I knew
that one. I knew because I grew up in Pensacola.
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
But truly, most folks have no idea, right? But the Spanish with French allies were fighting the British and their Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Creek allies. And but Green Spring is kind of in that vein, right? It's less known but critical to the story. If Cornwallis had bagged the entire American army, and he had a chance to, if he had done that, then all those crack light infantry battalions would not have been at Yorktown. And who knows how that might have materially changed things. May not have, it might have, we don't know. But Lafayette had the light infantry with him, and he was lured into a trap, and Tarleton urged Cornwallis to follow up his success. But Cornwallis said, no, my orders are to cross the James River and go to Portsmouth, and so that's what I've got to do. And he let Lafayette get away. And then, as a nice way to kind of maybe put a bow around what we've been talking about, Volume 12 in my series is going to be another dual pack. It'll be the battles of, wait for it, Camden and Hobkirk's Hill, which is another reason we brought the convention to Camden, because Camden is everything that it is and will be treated wonderfully there by all those folks who are happy to have us, and our registered attendees will get an immersive experience in the 18th century. And oh, by the way, that'll be Volume 12 in the series down the road. So I've already started the research and the preliminary design work for those.
So, Mark, since we're talking about the various production, I actually have a history question to ask, a history of the game series question to ask. And and there might not be a good answer, maybe there is. But as I look at the years, Saratoga came out in 1998. And so as I look at when all the games came out, there have been 2 periods of really robust publishing of the games with a big gap in the middle, which is where the first tri-pack slid in. Did the first tri-pack reinvigorate fan knowledge and excitement about the system? Or was there just a natural life got in the way in those 7 years in between the original products?
Yeah, and
Rhode Island.
That's a really good question, Bill. And from my perspective, there really was never a fall off of interest. So it wasn't a case of the series got stale, the tri-pack was issued, it reinvigorated interest. I don't think that was the case. What it was I was raising a family and building a career.
Yeah.
and I had a day job. And I was able to basically turn a design every 2 to 2.5 years. And that's on top of a core system that remained essentially unchanged. Yeah. And that's because I was raising a family and building a career. I'm now retired, and I've accelerated my output. I can turn a design now in under 1.5 years. So that's just where that is. And I think that's all it was, Bill. It was just life intervening, and I have quite a few interests. This is one of my main, if not my main interest, but I have other interests, and
very few people can make board game designer the number one job, let alone war game designer.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's been a blessing, if you do the math, this is the 28th year, and who knew, right? Who could have imagined? Certainly not me. I was like Colonel Sanders. I got lots of polite rejections, but I stuck with it, and finally GMT through Andy Lewis. I showed it to Andy Lewis at an Avalon Con to show you how long ago that was. I showed the prototype of Saratoga, and he said, GMT might be interested in this. It kind of hits the sweet spot between not taking too long to play, having a manageable counter density, having a rule set that's accessible, but yet it's a nuanced system. So veteran players are going to keep wanting to come back for more, and new players are not going to be overly challenged to get into the core rules. And I don't know if any of you guys know this. I'll mention it. That was 1998 when it was published. It was runner-up. It was the Charles Roberts Award runner-up for best pre-World War II board game. That was the category then. They've since changed their category nomenclature quite a bit. But that was just a shock and awe. And GMT
pretty good for a rookie design.
Pretty good,
designer,
pretty good. And GMT said, "Hey, would you like to do another one?" and
let me think about it.
Yeah, let me think about that. And I had always been intrigued by Brandywine, so that was number 2. And it's been a blessing. And here we are now. And I think, dare I say, it's as popular, if not more so, than it's ever been. There's a worldwide following of players who play this series. I'm blessed.
I have one more off the wall question for you. When we were at the Armchair Dragoons Fall Assembly, I can't tell you how many times I've had my series rulebook out for some of the original games, right? Mm-hmm. And I never once noticed until someone pointed out to me that the title on the rulebook said Great Battles of the American Revolution.
That was me.
So I see that's changed starting with the 2020 version of the rules. Is that just an artifact of GMT was thinking about titling it that and changed their minds, or is there any story behind that?
No, there's really no interesting story. When GMT first launched, they called it Great Battles. Great Battles of the American Revolution, I guess parroting Great Battles of the American Civil War or whatever. I never warmed up to that title. I always shorthanded it. I started using the acronym BoAR, capital B, small lowercase o, capital A, capital R, BoAR. Battles of the American Revolution, and I guess just over time, attrition set in, and the great was dropped.
Yeah, because as I look back at the original game covers, great doesn't. Well, Saratoga is cropped, so I can't tell in Saratoga with the image I have in front of me. But by volume 2, there's no great. It just is straight up battles on the cover.
Yeah. And after I pointed that out to Bill when I got the second tri-pack fairly recently, the first thing I did was I opened it up because the first tri-pack, mine has Great Battles, but the second tri-pack says Battles again. So.
Yeah, the 2020 rules and the since 2020.
Yeah. And whenever you play any volume, fellas, you should always go to your most recent set of series rules, because although the rules as such are not changing, they're being clarified, and I think in the very latest rule book, which is the second tri-pack, I think we now, like, if something is important, we set it out in red letters in a box, and we use shading to distinguish design notes from other kind of notes. And I mean, we try to make it as user friendly as possible now. And again, the rule clarifications that are consistently being, refined. So you should always try to use your most recent rule book, whatever it may be, regardless of what game you're playing.
Yeah.
And if we have time, I don't know, Brent, do we still have time for?
This is a podcast. It's not like we're, beholden to the radio gods that are telling us, hey, you got to be done. The next show's coming on. We're good.
Okay. All right. Well, while I have you devotees here and your listeners, let me say again, I'm so grateful for folks like you guys here, Mike and Bill, and who are taking the time to either broadcast a replay on YouTube, or Bill, you're doing your series of replay articles and stuff. It's really great, and I'm grateful to everybody out there who does that. There's quite a few guys you can find on YouTube who do that sort of stuff. However, every now and then, I find myself yelling at the TV set because there's 1 or 2 or 3 essential rules that, as often as we try to get them clarified and fine-tuned, we seem to still be misunderstood. So let me just talk about a couple of those, if I may.
Do I need to go to a nodding corner first?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Hey, you played me fair and square, and you didn't have any trouble with the rules, as I recall.
No. Yeah.
The first one is about leaders and this notion of a leader in command. All too frequently, players are simply assuming that any leader on their side is eligible to command everybody on their side. And while that's often true of most leaders, it's not exclusively true of all leaders. And in the beginning of every exclusive rule book, it talks about leader seniority and which restrictions, if any, apply to certain leaders. For example, let's just take Utah Springs, since that's a game everybody on the call is familiar with here. The Americans only have two leaders. Nathaniel Greene, he's the Army commander, and of course, he can command everybody. That means if he's stacked, he can apply his combat DRM, or if it's a rally situation and he's stacked, he can apply his rally DRM. But Hampton, the other leader, is a state officer. He's not a continental. The color banding on his counter is dark blue, corresponding to the dark blue color banding on the state troops. And a careful reading of the rule indicates that Hampton can only command state troops, militia, and the partisans being Francis Marion. So any counter that has a colored stripe, any striped counter, can be commanded by Hampton. It's a visual cue that helps you remember. The Continentals have no stripes. Therefore, if there's a battle that has, two hexes are attacking one hex, and in the attacking stacks, there's even a single Continental unit along with a bunch of militia and other state troops or whatever, and Hampton is there, he's not eligible to command. He cannot apply tactics chits. He cannot apply DRMs. On the British side in the same battle, you've got three leaders. Marchbanks and Stewart are regulars. Stewart's the Army commander. Marchbanks is subordinate commander. They're British regulars. They can command everybody. The Loyalist officer is Coffin, Major Coffin. Loyalist units have a yellow stripe on their counter. In the same way that Hampton is restricted, Coffin is restricted. He can command Loyalist units or the one counter of Tory militia from 96. So that's an example, but I would encourage any player who's going to pick up a game to not gloss over that section about leaders in the front of every exclusive rules and look for restrictions, if any, that might apply to certain leaders. Now, sometimes I'm thinking of Monmouth. Bill, you're going to be playing Monmouth, you said. If you look at Monmouth, you'll see that some of the British leaders have notation written right on the counter as a further way to help remember. For instance, Erskine may only command light infantry, and it says that on his counter in very small font. I mean, it's, but it's there. Light infantry only, I think it says. And
I've already played in that case. My opponent was the British, and he had a few choice words for me when I pointed out he couldn't have them in command.
There you go. And along those lines, Webster can only command the 33rd Regiment. Monckton can only command the 2nd Grenadiers. And there might be, Pattison can only command artillery. On the American side, Oswald can only command artillery. I don't think there's any other restrictions for the Americans. I'm going off memory there. But again, the main point being leaders are not universal, don't have universal span of control necessarily, and you should always check that. The other thing quickly that I'll mention is this notion of stacking. We know that you can stack 6 strength points. We know that you can add 1 artillery unit of any value, but some players are trying to stack artillery up to 6 strength points. And that's just a misreading of the rules. So you want to be cognizant of, what constitutes a legal stack.
That's another one.
Yeah.
That's another one that gets people. I know that. They want to move artillery through artillery. Nope, no can do.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that was an issue for my playthrough because in Utah Springs, I think each side only had one artillery piece. So
Right, that's right. Utah Springs, there's not much artillery, but some of the bigger battles, Mike, there's lots and lots of guns. And, but I wanted to throw those two things out. And one last thing, it's not really a rule clarification as much as it's just an editorial comment. Probably 20% of BoAR players don't like using the tactics chits or tactics cards. They feel that it slows the game down, and maybe it does, but here's my argument for using the tactics. In the BoAR system, it's the mods, not the odds. A smart player will maneuver to accumulate as many die roll modifiers as possible. And I would rather attack at 3-2 with a +3 to my die roll than at 4-1 even. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you can't earn momentum unless you roll a 10 or 11 as an attacker or get a -1, -2 as the defender. And you're not going to get those results without die roll modifiers. So why would you just deny yourself one more avenue toward accumulating a perhaps necessary die roll modifier? That's one argument. Second argument is it makes leaders so much more valuable. I remember a after action that the Player's Aid guys were doing, Alexander and Grant, on their channel, and they had just played one of the scenarios in Brandywine. And Alexander was the British, and he was recounting how he had lost a leader on one side of the battlefield. And okay, I lost a leader, I got dinged a victory point, whatever, and yeah, I'm going to be missing that die roll modifier in combat. But then it dawned on him when he maneuvered for his next attack. Oh no, I don't have a leader. I'm restricted on what tactics I can use. I can only use the basic 4 that everybody gets all the time. Mm-hmm. I can't frontal assault. I can't commit reserves. I can't turn the flanks. And so it puts a premium on the value of leaders, and it makes the risk reward calculation of using a leader that much more exciting. Should I throw him in? What if he's killed? But I need him. So you got to think through all that, and I just think it does it slow it down some? Yeah, maybe, but in the end, it makes for a richer experience, I think. So that's just my opinion, as the designer, and I hope that those who shy away from using them will maybe give it a second thought. Oh, and Joel Toppin has done a very nice solitaire matrix now. You may say, well, how can I play solitaire with tactics chits and fool myself? I can't deceive myself, but he's got this really wonderful matrix that we published with the second tri-pack. It's going to be included now in every BoAR game going forward, and you can either play straight up for one side. If you're playing solitaire, like I'm the attacker, I'm going to choose a tactic, and you can roll on the solitaire bot for the other tactic, or you can let the bot control both sides, which a lot of players do, because that then randomizes the game even more, takes omnipotent control away from the player, which my system is intended to do. You're not you should not have complete control over what's happening on the battlefield.
I was using something like that in my playthrough. It's been a while, but I wonder if that's the same thing you're talking about.
That is what you were using, Mike. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was originally published in a C3I and has been available online for quite a while.
Okay. Yeah. It was easy to use, and it was just like you said. You really couldn't predict, what the outcome was going to be. And I was also, when I did the playthrough, I was kind of like you were saying, I was kind of lukewarm on the tactics cards, and I was like, yeah, I can see where you'd want to play a fast game, but at the same time, the cards really aren't that bad. So I could see you could go either way with the cards, but I got to say now that I'll only use the cards if I play the tactics cards. It is the way to go.
Well, my work here is done.
I'm not sure how we top that. So you've got, as you will be listening to this, one of the events will be underway. So if you are in commuting distance of PresCon, you can try and get there for the last, day or so, the big events on the weekend, whatever. WBC and the big Camden event are both in your future, and you've got plenty of time for, planning hotels and flights and tickets and all that stuff. Obviously, more tickets available at WBC. Cooler stuff like, Cannon Fire After Dark going to be available to you in Camden.
So just PresCon's one of those nice long cons. So it starts as you're listening to this tomorrow. So you've got a good 9 days to get there. So
wait, what day does it starts on the 20th? I thought it started
21st through March 1st.
Okay, I was offset by a week. I thought it was the week before that. Okay, so yes, Hall Butt, you will be there for 9 days. Otherwise, just show up middle of next week and you'll catch most of the event and you'll be fine. And double check the schedule. Make sure you're not there for Virginia home basketball game. Otherwise, hotels might be a pain. So, guys, thank y'all very much for being here. Mark, thank you for taking the time and laying out so clearly all the different stuff folks can expect at these really cool events. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm sure you guys are going to have a blast. And if Mike and Bill both show up, I should get dueling articles from the both of them for the website about it.
Yeah.
Well, Brant, you were very gracious to have me on, and Mike and Bill, it's a pleasure. Bill, a pleasure to talk to you now for a second time, and Mike for the first time, but certainly we'll be watching for more of your replays. And, maybe, just maybe, short notice be damned, maybe, just maybe, I'll see you in the RevCon room in Charlottesville in another 2 weeks from now.
Maybe it's only it's less than 3 hours from here, I think. It's not that far.
I'm saying you could go, you could go and come. You don't even need a hotel room. Just make it be a day.
Yeah, right. It's almost a day.
And Mike, look, man, you're retired. You can get that cheap Wednesday night hotel room and just take off for, the 2 days with the one overnight. I do it for Circle DC. You can do this for PresCon and RevCon, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. It's a bit of a haul for Bill. We get that. Like, Bill's going to show up for the big events, but
yeah.
Bill, we're going to see you at Buckeye Game Fest in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We need to lean on Mike because Mike's still waffling. So you need to yell at Mike a little more. But otherwise, gentlemen, thank y'all very much. This has been awesome. I don't mind that we ran a little long and, have to edit it together because it was cool stuff to have to listen to a second time when I'm doing the editing. For the audience, so couple of quick admin-ish things. We have redone some things on our Patreon. If you go look, we relabeled the tiers and changed up some of the graphics, but we're looking to get a couple of the different events restarted for some of those tiers. So where we've got some live streams and some special things for some of the higher tiers, those are going to be available to folks. We're going to be restarting those beyond just, name checking the top level supporters and the, free tickets to the Dragoons events, like Connections Online or the ACDC or the Fall Assembly. If you're one of those top level supporters, you get a free ticket to any event that we're in charge of. I can't get you into Origins free, I'm sorry, but I can get you into the Fall Assembly for free. We can happily do that. We've redone some stuff on the Patreon. We also changed providers for the Dragoons logo merchandise. Again, we make almost no money out of that at all. We set stuff for whatever the bare minimum is we can get away with. We just want folks to be able to have an opportunity to have a shirt or a sweatshirt or a hoodie or whatever with the logo on it. The new store, first of all, they actually ship on time, which was one of the problems we had with the old store. But we also have some polos with the embroidered logo on there. So they look a little snazzier, and you might even get away with wearing one to work when the weather warms up a little bit. You get away with wearing a Dragoons polo to work. So that's something else to take a look at. And those are linked to our front page, and the and we call out an item each week in Tuesday Newsday as well. Mike, anything else going on with the site we ought to be alerting the audience to?
I don't think so. So far, everything's running smooth.
Those are kind of the big hitters there. Cool. Also, start planning now for this summer. The middle of June, it's 17 to 21 June is when Origins is coming up. Look, you don't have to believe us. Believe Jason Matthews. Believe Herman Lettman. Believe Jason Carr. Believe the guys that were there for the last couple of years and have pointed out that, look, we've got this ever expanding oil spot of wargaming in the game, in the main gaming hall that just keeps getting bigger and snazzier. Last year, we had 3 tables worth of GMT stuff running, one that our guys ran, and then 2 tables that Jason Carr brought in folks from GMT to run those tables. This year, Jason's filling up 4 tables in addition to the one we were running. And that's just the GMT stuff. That doesn't count the stuff from Decision or Fort Circle or Catastrophe or Ares or all of those other things that we're doing there as well. So again, we're going to have the same footprint we had last year, a little more efficiently organized. We're going to have a couple of the Army officers that work with Command General Staff College, the Army War College or whatever, bringing some of the student projects that you hear us talk about on some of the podcasts. They're going to have some of those games there. So these are games that were designed by military officers for their master's program. We're going to have some of those games there that you'll have a chance to play. Paul's going to be back with the big double blind Kriegspiel set and may have an extra GM with him, which will allow us to do a couple of more of those. And if you've never seen the raffle table, you really ought to show up and, play some games and get some raffle tickets in there. You can watch the video from last year. It took us over 45 minutes to raffle all that stuff off. So it could take us a little while. Look forward to seeing you, whether it's at, a convention or just listen to the podcast. Drop us a comment down below or, somewhere on social media where you can reply to us. We love hearing from you guys. It's always cool to get a note from folks that enjoyed something. And I have no doubt we're going to have a couple of nice notes from folks for bringing Mark in and giving him this platform to, hype up what sounds like a couple of really cool events and then give us a preview of what's coming up for the Battles of the American Revolution series. All right, deep breath. Folks, we really appreciate you being here. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time on another episode of Nation Dispatches.